not a conservative position, my friends. My politics have not changed, but I am reacting to politics that have. And this is yet another example of how the woke invert the very thing that used to make liberals liberals. Olympic surfing exposes whitewashed native Hawaiian roots. Yeah, the Olympics added surfing this year. Good. Surfers deserve to be recognized as athletes. I'm sorry. What I meant to say is, no, that's cultural appropriation. The AP says that for Hawaiians, probably all two of them, including surfing in the Olympics, is an extension of the racial indignity seared into the history of the game and their homeland when white outsiders took over their spiritual art form. Or just people having fun in the ocean.
It's not just movies that the woke left has set its sights on. Sports are now firmly in their crosshairs, too. Over the years, several athletes and sports personalities have been dragged into controversy simply for refusing to kneel before the altar of woke culture. But Bill Maher, he wasn't about to play along. He sliced through the woke crowd with ruthless precision, and the moment was nothing short of unforgettable. As always, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and let's dive straight in.
Of the opening ceremony was fired hours before the event because they found out there was a Holocaust joke in a comedy routine he did decades ago. Well, you know, context is everything. Obviously, it didn't strike people as beyond the pale at the time. Young people have to stop flattering themselves that they're Nostradamus and would have foreseen, had they been around then, everything that's unacceptable now. And for further context, Mel Brooks wrote one of the most successful musicals of all time around the song Springtime for Hitler.
Woke crowd never forgives, and they never forget. It's like they're on a permanent hunt, constantly scanning the landscape for their next target. And they're patient, very patient. They'll dig through years of tweets, old interviews, forgotten posts, and private messages, searching relentlessly for anything they can use. It doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter what the context was. All they need is one line, one joke, one comment that can be twisted, reframed, and weaponized. And once they find it, the outrage machine kicks into full gear. Suddenly, the person isn't judged by their lifetime of achievements, but by a single moment frozen in time. That's exactly what happened to this Olympic Games director. They went digging, searching for something, anything to use against him, and eventually they found their ammunition, and when they did, they made sure the entire world saw it.
We allow the people who just want to always win. Days before that firing, the opening ceremony's musical director was also forced out because someone dug up an interview with him from 1994 where he admitted to bullying classmates as a child. As a child. Remember when your teacher used to try and scare you by saying, "This is going to go on your permanent record"? Yeah. No longer an empty threat now.
These people don't stop until they've turned the full weight of public opinion against you. They'll keep pushing, keep digging, keep amplifying outrage until your reputation is hanging by a thread. Nothing is off limits. They'll comb through your past, revisit your earliest mistakes, and even drag out things you said or did as a child, all to build a case against you. Context doesn't matter. Growth doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. All that matters is the narrative they want to create in the present, and the irony is almost impossible to ignore. They act as if they themselves were flawless growing up, as if they never made a bad joke, never said something foolish, never had an immature moment. They rewrite their own past as spotless while holding yours under a microscope, demanding perfection. They never lived up to themselves in the first place.
Creative director of the entire shebang of the whole Olympics got shit canned because he once made a fat joke in a private conversation. This is called a purge. It's a mentality that belongs in Stalin's Russia. How bad does this atmosphere we are living in have to get before the people who say cancel culture is overblown admit that is in fact an insanity that is swallowing up the world? What a ridiculous crowd. I'm back, not the audience. I'm back. And that is not a conservative position, my friends. My politics have not changed, but I am reacting to politics that have. And this is yet another example of how the woke invert the very thing that used to make liberals liberals. Snitches and That's not being...
Maher doesn't mince words when he talks about the woke mob. He calls them out as modern-day snitches, constantly lurking in the background, searching for dirt they can use to publicly shame and destroy someone. According to Maher, it's not about justice or accountability anymore. It's about control. It's about catching someone slipping, preserving the evidence, and then unleashing it at the perfect moment to maximize outrage. He argues that this behavior doesn't reflect true liberal values, even though it often comes from within liberal circles. In his view, classic liberalism was about tolerance, open debate, and allowing people the freedom to grow and evolve. But this new faction, he says, operates very differently. Instead of encouraging conversation, they shut it down. Instead of promoting understanding, they demand compliance. Maher ultimately argues that what we're seeing isn't liberalism at all, but something far more extreme and irrational.
Associated Press is a real news organization, yeah? So why am I reading this headline? Olympic surfing exposes whitewashed native Hawaiian roots. Yeah, the Olympics added surfing this year. Good. Surfers deserve to be recognized as athletes. I'm sorry. What I meant to say is, no, that's cultural appropriation. The AP says that for Hawaiians, probably all two of them, including surfing in the Olympics is an extension of the racial indignity seared into the history of the game and their homeland when white outsiders took over their spiritual art form. Or just people having fun in the ocean.
It's almost comical how the woke crowd has mastered the art of reinterpreting everything. Ordinary moments, people laughing, relaxing, and simply having fun at the beach are suddenly reframed as something far deeper, something political, something symbolic. What was once just harmless enjoyment is now dissected and presented as a profound spiritual or cultural statement. They wrap it all in grand, intellectual-sounding language, carefully choosing words that make their arguments seem thoughtful and persuasive on the surface. But when you strip away the buzzwords and the dramatic framing, there's often very little substance underneath. It's style over substance, performance over reality. The goal isn't clarity, it's persuasion. They rely on inflated language to elevate ordinary situations into controversies that demand attention. And in the end, what they present as something deeply meaningful often turns out to be much ado about nothing at all.
Say, of all the violations of the woke penal code, cultural appropriation just might be the dumbest of all. First of all, there are 25,000 islands in the Pacific. How do we know a Hawaiian was the first to stand on a board in the water? It seems like something anyone in any ocean would eventually get around to. And if you're a surfer, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or in between. You all taste the same to sharks.
Maher argues that the woke mob's obsession with cultural appropriation often collapses under its own logic. He questions why appreciation is suddenly treated as a crime, especially in a world that has never been more interconnected. We live in an era where cultures constantly influence one another through music, fashion, food, and art, and that exchange has always been part of human progress. People naturally adopt elements they admire, not to erase their meaning, but to celebrate them. Maher believes that this blending of cultures is more often a sign of respect than disrespect. It shows curiosity, admiration, and a willingness to engage with something beyond your own experience. Yet the woke crowd, he argues, treats these moments as violations instead of opportunities for connection. In his view, shutting down cultural exchange doesn't protect culture. It isolates it, freezes it in place, and strips away the shared human experience that keeps culture alive.
A Hawaiian did invent surfing. Should he or she have kept it to themselves? Most of human history is a horror story, but the good parts are about different groups coming together and sharing. It's sort of the whole point of the Olympics, which itself comes from Greece, where wrestling was invented as a way for completely heterosexual men to get to know each other. Badminton has roots in India. Tennis comes from France. Skiing from Scandinavia and Taekwondo from Korea. Judo was appropriated from the Far East and skateboarding from the Far Out.
Maher makes the point that just because a group discovers or creates something doesn't mean it must remain confined to that group forever. Human progress has always depended on sharing ideas, traditions, inventions, and forms of expression, moving beyond their point of origin and reaching new people. Today, more than ever, the world functions like a global village. Technology, travel, and communication have erased the old barriers that once kept cultures isolated. People now learn from one another in real time, adopting what inspires them and building on it in new and meaningful ways. That exchange doesn't diminish culture, it strengthens it. It allows traditions to evolve, remain relevant, and reach wider audiences. More importantly, it brings people closer together. Instead of dividing us into rigid cultural boundaries, shared experiences create common ground, fostering mutual respect and understanding under one larger shared human umbrella that connects us all together.
This new rule that the first thing to do, that the first to do something, are the only ones who get to have it. Jewish people spend most of their history wandering, but when they see other people milling around, they don't say, "Can you not? That's sort of our thing." You know, change is not synonymous with progress. Newer doesn't automatically mean better. This new idea that each culture must remain in its own separate silo is not better. It's not progress.
Maher hits the nail right on the head. The idea that people shouldn't explore or learn from other cultures is not only unreasonable, it's fundamentally contrary to how human civilization has always evolved. Every advancement we celebrate today exists because people observed others, borrowed ideas, and built upon them. To suddenly declare that cultural exchange is off limits ignores centuries of shared growth and mutual influence. Maher argues that these woke ideas often collapse under basic scrutiny because they prioritize rigid ideological rules over common sense and human curiosity. Instead of encouraging openness, they promote fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, wearing the wrong thing, or appreciating the wrong tradition. That kind of thinking doesn't unite people. It isolates them. Maher believes this mindset is not just misguided, but deeply harmful to the spirit of learning, connection, and freedom that allows societies to thrive and evolve together over time naturally.
In fact, it's messing with one of the few ideas that still really does make this melting pot called America great. Not everything is about oppression. Stealing natural resources from indigenous peoples, yes, of course, that is exploitation. But I swear not one Beach Boys song resulted in any Hawaiian having less waves to surf. Not one African record buyer stopped purchasing local music after Paul Simon made Graceland. But lots of white buyers in America were turned on to and then bought African music. And today, Korean boy bands make Western-style music. You don't get to number one singing this.
Are we suddenly going to accuse Korean artists who perform Western music of cultural appropriation? Of course not. In fact, they're often celebrated for their talent, creativity, and global influence. No one questions their right to sing pop, rap, or R&B genres that originated in the West. But somehow, when the situation is reversed, the reaction changes completely. When Americans or Western artists embrace elements from other cultures, it's no longer called appreciation, it's labeled appropriation. That inconsistency exposes a clear double standard. Cultural exchange seems acceptable in one direction, but controversial in the other. It creates an uneven playing field where some people are free to explore and express themselves, while others are criticized for doing the exact same thing. If culture is meant to bring people together, then these selective rules only divide us. True cultural exchange should be a two-way street, not a one-sided privilege.
The great thing about cultural mixing, it makes things better for everyone. BTS can be a hit in America, and I can get kimchi on a taco. Isn't that better than everyone walling itself off from outsiders? I thought walls were supposed to be bad. But we're living now in a world where straight actors are told they can't play gay roles, and white novelists aren't allowed to imagine what it would be like to be a Mexican immigrant, even though trying to inhabit the life of someone else is almost the very definition of empathy, the bedrock of liberalism. And by the way, if anyone deserves to bitch about stealing in the Olympics, It's the horses in the equestrian events who have to watch humans get medals for everything they...
In the end, Maher's argument cuts through the noise and exposes the contradiction at the heart of woke outrage culture. What began as a movement claiming to promote fairness and inclusion has, in many cases, turned into a culture of surveillance, judgment, and selective outrage. Instead of encouraging open dialogue, it punishes curiosity. Instead of celebrating cultural exchange, it polices it. And instead of bringing people together, it creates new lines of division. Maher reminds us that progress has never come from fear or restriction, but from openness, exploration, and the freedom to learn from one another. Cultures grow by being shared, not locked away. People grow by making mistakes, not by pretending to be perfect. And societies grow stronger when they allow debate, disagreement, and diverse perspectives. In the end, common sense must prevail over ideology, because unity is built through connection, not control or enforced silence. And this brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.